Have you ever noticed how some people command a room without uttering a single word? They don't raise their voices. They don't plead for attention. Instead, they step back. They withdraw. And in that very moment, something invisible but powerful happens. The atmosphere shifts. People become unsettled. Questions start to surface. Curiosity awakens. Suddenly, others lean in, desperate to pull back what has slipped from their grasp. Now, imagine if you began to live this way. Imagine if, instead of reacting instantly to every word, every message, every provocation, you chose silence. Imagine if, instead of exploding, you calmly withdrew. What would change? The truth is everything. Because silence is not emptiness. Silence is energy in reserve. It is presence magnified. Here lies the key. The moment you stop being emotionally, physically, and mentally accessible at all times, the world around you enters a crisis. Why? Because most people are accustomed to controlling you through your predictable reactions, through your impulses, through your availability. But the day you choose to withhold your immediate response, the day you choose retreat over reactivity, the entire dynamic changes. Suddenly, they realize they don't know you as well as they thought. The psychologist Carl Jung once said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." Think about that. When you become less accessible, watch carefully who begins to panic, who tries to provoke you just to get a spark of emotion from you, who grows angry at your calmness. These reactions reveal more about them than they do about you. They reveal just how much of your power you've been giving away, without realizing it. Every time you say yes to keep the peace, every time you respond immediately to a demand, every time you allow yourself to be pulled into drama, you hand over a piece of your energy. And what remains at the end of the day? Exhaustion, frustration, a hollow feeling you cannot quite explain. But the reason is simple. You have made yourself too available to people who never truly earned your presence in the first place. This message is not about turning your back on humanity. It's about turning toward yourself. It's about the process Jung described as individuation, the lifelong journey of becoming whole, authentic, and complete. And this journey begins with silence. Because silence can hold more weight than 1,000 arguments. Withdrawal, when it comes from awareness and not from fear, is not weakness. It is strength. It is power. So let me ask you, how long will you allow others to pull the strings of your emotions? How long will you dance like a puppet to every provocation? Maybe it's time to cut the cords, to withdraw, to reclaim mystery. Because when you stop being perpetually available, everything begins to change. Conditioned to be available. From childhood you were taught to respond quickly, to be polite, to please, to say yes even when your heart whispered no. You were conditioned to believe your worth came from how much you could give others, how present you could be for their needs. But here is a hard truth. This endless availability is not a virtue. It is a prison. The more predictable you are, the easier it becomes for others to manipulate you. They learn that they can press your emotional buttons like a machine. Push here, and you'll react with guilt. Push there, and you'll explode in anger. Push again, and you'll explain yourself endlessly, draining your energy in the process. And while you remain trapped in this loop, you believe, mistakenly, that being present for everyone will make someone finally be present for you. But it doesn't work that way. People don't value what they can access without effort. What is abundant becomes disposable. What is always there becomes invisible. Carl Jung wrote extensively about the persona, the mask we wear so that others will accept us. It's that mask that convinces you to be endlessly available. You smile when you're suffocating inside. You reply to messages though you're bone-tired. You explain yourself even when no explanation is needed. And in doing so, you abandon yourself little by little. Availability becomes self-betrayal. Think of it this way. Every yes you force, every defense you mount, every unnecessary justification, each is a leak in your soul's reservoir. And slowly, drip by drip, your vital energy is poured out until you are left depleted. The hidden cost of emotional reactivity. Why do we react so quickly? Why do we find it almost impossible to remain silent? The answer lies in what Jung called psychic energy. To him, the human psyche was not a machine but a living energy system. Every thought, every emotion, every action consumes energy. And that energy is finite. The critical question is, are you consciously choosing where it goes, or are you allowing others to direct it for you? Every time you snap back at a criticism that didn't deserve a response, you waste energy. Every time you explain yourself to someone determined not to understand, you waste energy. Every time you argue for validation from people who don't value you, you waste energy. And as Jung warned, that which you resist persists. The more you react, the more you remain bound to what drains you. Those who live constantly tired are not inherently weak, they are misdirected. They are leaking energy into places that will never refill them. And what happens when you live perpetually exhausted? You become vulnerable. Predators sense it. Manipulative personalities notice it. They see that you can't guard your energy, that you react to every jab, and they exploit it. A strong psyche, Jung said, is one that knows how to conserve energy. It knows how to say no without apology, how to remain silent without shame, how to pause before acting. Because true power doesn't lie in constant reaction. It lies in conscious choice. Think about how many nights you've lost to rehearsing conversations in your mind. How many hours you've wasted replaying scenarios, trying to understand why someone mistreated you. That's energy gone. Energy you'll never recover. You are keeping alive ghosts that should have been buried long ago. When your energy is scattered, you enter a room unnoticed. But when you conserve it, you radiate presence. You don't need to speak loudly or assert dominance. Your energy does it for you. Manipulation and projections. Here's the darker side. Many of your reactions are not even conscious. They are programmed. And those who know how to exploit them use you like a tool. They don't need to scream or threaten. All they need to do is press your exposed buttons. Jung called this mechanism projection, when people project onto others what they cannot face within themselves. The problem is, if you remain overly accessible, you become the canvas for everyone else's projections. Think about that friend who only calls when their life is falling apart. The partner who leans on you to fix everything but vanishes when you need support. The acquaintance who flatters you, but only while you're useful. None of this is coincidence. These people are not connecting with you. They are connecting with an image of you, a role you've agreed to play. And why do you play it? Because you fear rejection. You fear being unloved. You fear abandonment. The most effective manipulation does not shout. It whispers through guilt. It makes you feel that you owe your presence, that you owe your energy, that you owe your constant availability, even when it crushes you. The manipulator doesn't need to control you actively. They simply need you to keep reacting the way you always have. But when you stop reacting, everything collapses. When you say no without explanation, when you respond with silence, when you withdraw instead of defending yourself, the projections shatter. The mask they placed on you falls to the ground. And this unsettles them deeply, because now they are left face to face with their own shadows. And not everyone is ready for that. The discomfort and power of silence. The modern world is noisy. Everyone is eager to talk, to argue, to post, to respond, to win. But there is a kind of power most people overlook. The power of silence. Silence is not emptiness. It is amplified presence. It is not cowardice but sovereignty. When you stop reacting, you start observing. And through observation, you begin to see patterns. The manipulations, the cycles, the traps you once fell into unconsciously. Silence gives you lucidity. And lucidity is dangerous for those who thrive on your chaos. Notice how some people panic when you don't respond. Notice how they accuse you of being distant, cold, arrogant, simply because you withheld your energy. It's not that they miss you. It's that your silence stripped away their control. While you speak, you are still within their narrative. But when you are silent, the story changes. Silence leaves them unsettled because they are forced to face their own noise. Jung taught that individuation, the journey of becoming your true self, requires periods of isolation. Because only in silence can you hear your own voice without interference. But silence comes with a cost. It will alienate those who only valued you for what you gave them. It will make you incomprehensible to those who only ever saw you through their projections. Yet, it is precisely this cost that makes silence sacred. Because words are not free, they are investments of energy. And not everyone deserves access to your truth. Sometimes silence is not retreat. Sometimes it is a declaration, I am sovereign. I no longer owe explanations. Relearning to guard energy. Awareness is useless without action. It's not enough to understand manipulation intellectually. You must embody the lesson. This begins with small acts of conscious unavailability. Pausing before you reply. Breathing before you argue. Leaving the room instead of letting yourself be dragged into chaos. Turning off your phone without guilt. Saying not today. Saying no. Saying nothing at all. And the key, do not justify. Do not explain. The moment you justify your silence, you give power back to the other person. You allow them to pull you back into the narrative where you exist only to serve. Jung believed individuation always passes through solitude. Not a depressive emptiness but a sacred withdrawal. A time to rebuild your identity free from the gaze of others. A time to listen to your own soul. A useful test of your growth is this. Observe who distances themselves when you grow more reserved. Observe who becomes irritated when you stop reacting. Observe who accuses you of changing when you finally start protecting yourself. These reactions are not proof that you're wrong. They are proof that you're breaking free. At first, unavailability feels like guilt. You'll think you're selfish. You'll hear accusations that you're too harsh. But that discomfort is simply the detox of decades of conditioning. You've been trained to put yourself second. Breaking free will always upset those who profited from the old version of you. The rebirth of solitude. What happens after the rupture? What comes after silence? First, unease. A silence that feels almost unbearable. You wonder if you went too far. If you lost people who cared. But slowly that silence becomes healing. Solitude becomes clarity. The absence of noise becomes peace. This is not the emptiness of abandonment. It is the fullness of presence, your own presence. The solitude of someone who no longer betrays themselves to keep others comfortable. And in that space, strength grows. Jung taught that individuation requires stepping away from the collective, shedding the mask, and walking alone for a time. That is what you are doing when you embrace conscious unavailability. You are not escaping life. You are reclaiming it. You will lose people. But you will find yourself. You will leave places. But you will come home to your essence. You will be misunderstood. But at last, you will be respected. Because what is rare is revered. What is not constantly available becomes priceless. And this is rebirth. A new beginning. A life where you no longer settle for emotional scraps, manipulation, or hollow connections. Now you accept only what resonates with your peace, your truth, your wholeness. If you've listened this far, some part of you is already ready. You already know. Being loved is worthless if it demands that you abandon yourself. True love, real love, begins the moment you choose yourself. Even if it costs you company. Even if it costs you comfort. Even if it costs you everything you thought you needed. So I ask you now, are you ready to be misunderstood, even disliked in the name of freedom? Are you ready to pay the price of becoming who you truly are? If this message resonates, declare it now, I choose my peace. Because peace is priceless. And once you choose it, nothing and no one can take it from you.